In this video, we are going to be looking over this Asahi Pentax K1000 35mm SLR camera equipped with the SMC Pentax-M f2 50mm prime lens. And in order to test this out, we are going to also be using this scrap roll of 35mm film just for test purposes. It's not included. And so I thought, first of all, what we'll do is open the back and we will look at the film area and load the film. So we pull up on the rewind crank to pop the back loose. As we look in here, we see a little bit of discoloration of this rail right here and here. And then also just a little bit on here where the edge of the film runs. It should not have any effect on how it works, but just be aware there's a little discoloration. I feel a little bit of raised area there. I don't really feel anything on here. Now, we're going to load the film here, and we're going to push the crank down and make sure that's seated in there. And then on this camera, you have to pull the leader out and find one of these slots in the take-up reel and start it, and kind of make sure while that's starting to roll that the film aligns with the sprocket right here and here. And now that we see that that's in, now we can close the door, and then now we have to actuate the shutter a few times. Here's the film counter, and so there it's still in the pre-loading area, and here it moves up to the 0. And now it has wound in enough film to be at position 1, and it should be a fresh piece that's not been exposed. And what I thought we would do in testing out the camera is just start stepping down through the shutter speed. So here I've got it at 1/1000th of a second, and we'll just incrementally wind it down a little bit each time. So here we go, 1/1000th of a second, 1/500th of a second, and we'll set it at 1/250th. And just momentarily, let's look here at the film winding as I cock the shutter and film advanced, and we'll see that this is moving to indicate the film is in place. Okay, so here's at 1/250th, 1/125th, 1/60th, 1/20th, no, that was 1/30th. Okay, 1/15th, 1/8th, and now we're going to go to 1/4th, and I'm going to stop the lens down just a little bit here so that we can see that it stops down properly during shutter operation. There it was, and now down to 1/2 second. And 1 full second. And we saw the blades come in and close down. Sounded very healthy on those last settings. And here's the bulb setting, where the lens just stays stopped down and the shutter stays open as long as I hold the button down. Cycle completes. So quite simple. And what we're going to do now is just use up the rest of this film here. I don't remember how many frames it had on it, but we'll just crank those through. Okay, there, we've reached the end. So now what we do is we push this little button on the bottom, and then we can lift up the rewind crank right here and wind the film back into the canister. And since this is not film that we actually care about, I'm going to just pop the back open here and we can watch this happen. It let up on the take up a little bit when I opened it, but here we can see the film winds back through. So that's working properly. We could take the film out. If we look on the bottom here, there's a little compartment for a battery. There's a battery in it. I have not verified exactly how good it is. It is running the meter as it sits right now. I checked the the camera against a modern DSLR pointed in the exact same direction, same framing, with a 50mm lens, and tried it at 3 different ASA or ISO values, and the combinations of shutter speed and aperture matched up with that DSLR on all 3 different ASA values, so I think it's pretty close. We can take the lens off here and just look in the mirror box here. Looks like this foam is deteriorating a little bit, the foam that the mirror flips up against. Let's look at that. We can actuate this. Otherwise, technically, it's all working right. If we look at the lens itself, it's got smooth focus. The one thing I do notice is as we reach the end of the range on each end, the ring continues to spin. And what that is it's slipping on the barrel. So while it works just fine, when you get to the end, you can continue to turn the rubber piece because it's just slipping on the barrel. So while you're using it, you want to keep a little bit of pressure on your fingers. Here the aperture ring has nice clicks, and if we leave it at f22 and operate the aperture, we can see very quick. I did look through this with an LED flashlight, and there is some slight haze in there, a little bit of haze and dust. I have not taken any pictures with this, so I don't know how much that will affect what you get as an image, though I mean, it looks pretty good just looking straight through it, but if you shine a flashlight through the back of the lens, you do see some fog and haze light up a little bit, but generally not too bad, and technically in good condition, and it mounts properly back onto the camera. The strap is a Asahi Pentax strap. It says Asahi Pentax right there. And I should also point out that this is one of the versions of this K1000 that was made for many years, actually up into the late 1990s from the mid-70s. But this one is one of the earlier ones that actually says Asahi on it, and it has both a metal top and metal bottom. Those were later changed to plastic on later versions of this camera. So a fairly nice example of the K1000. I would guess it would probably take pictures just as it sits. If you wanted to do a CLA, I would recommend replacing the light seals and the piece of rubber foam that the mirror flips up against, and just a general cleaning. But it's certainly a good example of a camera that's worth the fixing, in my opinion. Thank you.